Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. So it's been a little over a year since the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trials, and now somebody's released all of the transcripts. I'm going through these because I'm really curious. There's a whole bunch of things that we can see in these transcripts that you just couldn't see at the time. Even if you were in the courtroom, and I was in the courtroom for part of it, you couldn't see a lot of these things, like the sidebars. During the sidebars, if you were in the courtroom, they'd actually blast out white noise loud enough that it was kind of painful, just so that you couldn't possibly hear what they were saying. But now these transcripts are revealing all of that, and so this provides an insight into what was happening. I've been going through these because I'm kind of curious, and there's some things I wanted to share with you, some things that have been leaping out at me. One of them is that there was a lot of commentary about how these jurors wanted to be jurors because they were such big fans of Johnny Depp. And going over the jury selection, that doesn't seem to be the case. In fact, a few jurors really didn't want to be jurors at all. They tried to get out of jury duty. So I thought, let's have a look at that, because it's kind of interesting to see some of the things that people were saying that got them out of jury duty, some of the things that didn't get people out of jury duty, and it's kind of an interesting insight. It also dispels this myth that all of these jurors were just such huge Johnny Depp fans that they were just desperate to be on the jury. And quite frankly, that myth, nobody should be selling that around, because that's actually kind of offensive. If you are a fan of Amber Heard, well, then you're looking at her lawyers. They'd have to be incompetent to allow somebody who's a massive Johnny Depp fan onto the jury. They obviously didn't. And, obviously Amber would have spoken up if that's the case. So let's have a look at this. I think there's some interesting tidbits. It also made me like the Judge Ascarati, a little bit more, because there's some really human moments in this. And so I wanted to share those with you as well. So it starts off, the judge begins by sort of warning people. They're asking if anyone thinks that they should be excused for hardship. And the judge notes that it'll take about 6 weeks, including deliberations. So that's a lengthy time. And the judge also warns people and says, listen, I know that you guys may not want to be here for 6 weeks, but not everything you might think is a hardship will actually get you out of jury duty. So please just be honest with what's an issue, and they'll make the call. So let's have a look at the transcripts here. So right at the outset, juror number 5 says, "My daughter's having surgery," and the court just says, "Anybody have any objections since her daughter's having surgery?" Nobody has any objections, so off she goes. But fairly quickly we get to, and then we've got juror 8, who says, "I've got a trip to Utah," and the judge says, "You got plane tickets? Is this good to go?" He says, "Yeah, I've got plane tickets," and so the court says, "Any objections?" "No, no one has any objections." "Okay, looks like you're going to Utah," says the court. "No, looks like you're going to Utah." "Okay." So the next one that we'll look at here is juror number 10. Now, juror number 10 was ultimately on the jury. So they had an objection for hardship, but they didn't get out of jury duty. And in fact, they stayed there the entire time and were part of the final panel. So juror number 10 says, "I have a financial hardship." The court, "A financial hardship. Do you work for yourself, sir?" And the reason why the court is asking that is because if you work on your own and you're going to be gone for 6 weeks, that's probably enough to destroy your business. But if you work for somebody else, they probably have to cover your jury duty. But there's a little bit of a wrinkle here. So juror number 10 says, "I do not. I'm employed by a company." The court says, "Excuse me?" "I'm employed by a company." The court says, "Well, the company has to pay you for jury duty." And juror number 10 replies, "2 weeks." Court says, "They pay you for 2 weeks? After that, they don't pay you for any more?" And the juror says, "No." Court says, "Any follow-up question for that?" And Ms. Bredehoft, Elaine Bredehoft, says, "Isn't that illegal?" Court says, yeah, I think so. I think they have to pay you. I can write you a letter. And juror number 10 says, okay. Court responds, okay, I think you're good. We'll keep you on, okay? Juror number 10 says, all right. Now, when the court says, I'll write you a letter, I can just imagine what this letter would have looked like. Dear company, I understand that you are not planning on paying more than 2 weeks for this jury duty. As the judge, I have some opinions about this, and I also have the power to express those opinions loudly and in ways you don't like. So please make sure you do the rest of the paying, or else you will experience the pain. Okay, that was... Forgive me for that one. I'm leaving it in, but forgive me for that one. So juror number 10 did not want to be on this jury, on this panel, and was anyway. There's a few other moments here that I thought were, sort of good moments. Juror number 24 stands up and says, I'm currently having in vitro fertilization. So this week I'm loaded up with hormones. And the court says, whoa, 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 let's stop. You had me at that. That's fine. Take a seat. You're done. So juror number 24, they say, hey, we've got this procedure going on. The court says, you're good. Please go. I really like the, you had me at the IVF. You don't need to go on. We're good. Throughout this, Judge Azcarate, when it's just work things, typically says, listen, your work's got to pay you. But where there's somebody with serious sort of life concerns, she's got no problem sending people along. And in fact, she does so with some compassionate moments that I'll sort of mention here. I think that was one of them. But juror number 22, who was also a juror eventually on the panel. So he says, good morning. It would be a hardship for my job. Court says, okay, could you be a little more specific? He says, to be out that long. Court says, well, I understand. And that, we all have work and commitments, and I know, and I understand that'll be a hardship. But yeah, you'll have the evenings, you'll have Fridays, but I can't really get you off the jury. And so the juror responds, especially with the level of support that I provide, it would be hard to have backup while I'm out. But if that's something I can be considered for, then I would. The court says, we really need to keep you on the jury at this point, the jury panel, okay? The juror says, yes, ma'am. The court says, all right. And then on Fridays, if you need extra time in the mornings and things, you let me know, okay? If you're on the jury, okay? And so the juror says, thank you very much. And this juror was also selected, ends up on the panel, didn't want to be, asked to be relieved, was not granted that, ends up on the panel. There are a few other sort of moments I'll mention here. Another person who also has work concerns. This is juror number 60, who was not selected. They say, yes, I work for a foreign institution, and they don't have jury duty compensation. And also, I'm the head of the household, so it's like a week I can take a vacation. Person offers to take vacation to be on the jury. That's solid. But if it's 6 weeks, it's a bit too much. Who's got 6 weeks of vacation? Not me. Court says, I understand, but just because of work, I can't get you off the panel for that reason. What do you mean, head of the household? Juror says, like I'm the only one making the income and I work for a foreign institution. Like I work for an embassy. Court says, okay, you work for the embassy. They won't pay. Juror responds, they won't pay, no. Court says, that probably is correct. Because the embassies have different rules, right? They're not necessarily subject to U.S. rules for labor. They might be subject to whatever country they're an embassy of rules. So the court says, I want you to have a seat in the back of the courtroom for the foreign embassy. I can't help you with the foreign embassies. So everyone else who was saying, my work won't cover it, Judge Azcarate was saying, I'll write you a letter. We'll make this happen. But this person, Judge Azcarate, doesn't have jurisdiction over. She can't make the embassy pay this one. So he gets cut loose. There's also juror number 46. And this is just a fun moment. It says, yes, Your Honor, I have a trip planned in 2 weeks to Sonoma, California to see my son. And then on May 7th, I'm going to Budapest and Prague, non-refundable tickets. And on its own, a vacation that's already booked was good enough to get people out. So the court says, nice. Okay, I assume there's no objection to that. Ms. Bredehoff says, no objection. Through most of this, Camille Vasquez doesn't speak up to object or not. I suspect she's just shaking her head for no objection, but that doesn't show up in the transcripts. So the court says, you're not taking us with you, but that's okay. You can have a seat in the back of the courtroom. A little bit of the sense of humor that really filters through, and I quite appreciate that. Here's another moment that I think really humanizes, like the judge in this circumstance doesn't have to do anything other than just proceed through things. But juror number 55, he says he doesn't want to be on the jury, and the reason why is he says, I've got cancer. It spread to my chest. Court says, I understand. Any objection? And Ms. Vasquez speaks up to say no. The court says, good luck to you, sir. Okay? A little bit of compassion and I hope juror number 55, wherever you are, I hope you beat that. I hope everything's going well for you, because it's that's a heck of a thing. And there have been too many good people that we've lost. Now, I'm scrolling way down. You're probably wondering why is he scrolling way down? They actually started the inquiries into their various opinions and feelings about whether or not they could make unbiased judgments. I'll cover that in another video because this one's just going to be short and sweet. But juror number 3 eventually speaks up to say, whoa, I forgot to raise something during the hardship discussion. So juror number 3 says, I called my manager and they said they're only reimbursing me for like up to 2 weeks of jury duty. Now, juror number 3 was not ultimately a juror. They were an alternate. So they sat there for all 6 weeks and didn't get to deliberate. So it's kind of important that that they be covered here, right? This is a bit of a big deal. So the court says, who's your manager? Juror number 3 says, I work for a company called Nevesta. They say they can only reimburse me for 2 weeks. And the court says, we can get you a letter because that's not right. They have to reimburse you for the full time you're on jury duty. Juror number 3 says, okay. The court says, I'll get you a letter about jury service if you need it for that, okay? Juror 3 says, okay, is there anything I can do in the event I don't get reimbursed for the full 6 weeks? And the court, Judge Ascarati says, we'll send the letter. I think that'll resolve the issue because they have to. By law, they have to. I have my suspicions. I am betting that Judge Ascarati was... I'm betting she was emphatic about that. I'm betting she made it very clear that she would have some opinions if Juror 3 was not covered. So hopefully that got all that sorted out, because I can see Judge A going after some people if they didn't. Anyway, I thought this was a bit of an interesting thing. There's a whole lot of interesting stuff that goes on both in the jury selection and in the sidebars. So I'm going to do some videos just as I see things that I think are interesting to me as a person who was very interested in this trial and watched some of it in person, and that might be interesting to you guys as well. So there is some really interesting snark that happens, both from the judge. Ben Chu gets some good snark in, so we'll cover that as we can. All right. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you found this to be interesting and educational, maybe a little glimpse into jury duty and the processes. I also want to thank my Patreon supporters at the $50 level: Traveling Science Man, CCFR, CAIM, Canada's National Firearms Association, and the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. At the $30 level, Sights and Arms Limited and Jane Babe and Luxor. At the $20 level, Lindsay Metcalf, Larry Kalniak, Kyle Fox, Here's a Coin Legal Witcher, Cameron Johnson, Andrew Elsich, Vicky, and Dorky Dane. Thank you as well to my $10 supporters who will be in the crawl immediately following. Thank you for watching. I hope this has armed you with knowledge. See you next time.